God.
Recording.
Last time this will ever happen. Second week in a new studio. No, it's the last time it's ever going to happen. Brandon, hello, my friend.
Howdy, Bobby.
Hey, I want to start because I watched a lot of football. I wonder how much football you actually watch. Like, real life question, what the heck are your Saturdays like?
If I'm not on the road, I'm at home like I was this past week. I watched football from 11 a.m. till 1:30, whenever Washington State and San Diego State ended. So I was glued to the TV all day.
Do you do things, though? Because I feel like I do it as well. I definitely select the games that I like, and I have YouTube TV, and I'm patching things together. But, for example, and this is not great based on how this game ended, the LSU Texas A&M game, at halftime, I was like, this game's over. I'm going to go take a break and just kind of get away because there's no way that – do you ever walk away and then come back and be like, oh, my God, or do you just commit?
I try to commit as much as possible. I try to put on every game that I have available to me. So I have as many as 9 games going on at the same time, either through YouTube Multiview or through another account I've got. I've got a large widescreen computer screen. I got a couple of TVs around me. I was flipping back and forth from the main feed between that game and Penn State, Wisconsin, pretty religiously. But there are some games that I'll put on in the background that I'm not paying a lot of attention to, which admittedly this week ended up being SMU Duke, which ended up being an incredible finish, just because it was just kind of an ugly game. But I try, people say they watch all these games, they know exactly what's happening in every one. It's impossible to do so, but I'll tell you what really helps me is Twitter. Like, whenever something big's happening, usually you get an alert from someone like 30 seconds before it's on your TV, so you can flip over and watch the play develop after the fact. So that's kind of great.
I do want to start with the LSU Texas A&M game because, again, the game seemed over at half, and I am a loser, and I jumped out and was like, I'm out. It reminds me of the Alabama-Georgia game earlier where I was like, I'm out, and then I look and see, like, oh, my God, the game is flipped. But Texas A&M ends up winning that game, and we've seen their and Elko seems to be a genius at quarterbacks because Wegman was benched, Reed comes in and leads the comeback. I don't know who's the quarterback there.
Marcello Reed, he should be the quarterback moving forward. In fact, back in week 3 when Connor was injured and they went on the road to Florida and they started Marcello Reed, I thought it was clear then, like, this is your quarterback, Marcello Reed. Keep him out there. But when Connor got healthy, they brought him back after a couple of weeks. The offense kept going and they kept winning, including a big win against Mizzou at home. But you just knew Marcello Reed, because of his duality, added a different kind of spice and flavor to that offense. Coming off the bench against LSU, his first 3 drives, he rushes for touchdowns, turned that game around entirely. And it put a lot of pressure on the other quarterback, Garrett Nussmeier, for LSU, who a lot of people think might be the best quarterback in the country this year. And he suddenly just forgot how to play the position, throwing 3 interceptions, looked lost out there, looked like he was seeing ghosts at Texas A&M. An incredible game. I mean, LSU had won 104 straight games when leading by 10 points at halftime and end up losing by 12 in a game that really wasn't even that close in the second half. A&M just absolutely dominated. A&M has got to stick with Marcello Reed moving forward because it makes him so much more dangerous moving forward as a potential SEC champion this year.
So, Elko's press conference after, I did watch that, and I'm not sure how much of you caught, but he was like, we're a real program. We're not Who was that shot at?
Maybe perhaps his predecessor, Jimbo Fisher. I thought that was very interesting, to say the least. Elko's not the type of guy to just absolutely call someone out or even do so underhanded or backhanded, however you want to say it. But that was directed at Jimbo Fisher and the way he handled that program in previous years. And he came over and took over that program this past spring and summer. And it was so much drama in the back end there. And he was all like, listen, we're just going to shut our doors here. We're just going to go to work. We're not dealing with this stuff and how good we could be or anything like that. Don't go talk to the media. Everything's going to be in-house here. And sure enough, that plan has worked for him. And, Mike Elko is a Jimbo guy. He worked for Jimbo there previously as a defensive coordinator. And but I was still surprised that he would go that far and just say that out loud. But that's what happens sometimes. That's why this sport's so great, because you're caught up in the moment after a big win like that, and you start saying the quiet part out loud.
I was hoping it was Sark, though. I'll be honest with you, because I was like, surely it's not Jimbo. He worked for Jimbo. I was hoping it was Sark, just getting it ready for that final week. But let's talk about Texas for a second. Yeah, Vanderbilt. You know, they don't stop. It was a really good game. It was closer than I think Texas wanted or expected. I'm starting to think Texas is a fraud.
Really?
I mean,
I
it's Vanderbilt.
I I was actually kind of impressed by the way Texas played in that game because Quinn Ewers throws an interception early for Texas. Vanderbilt goes and scores. And then what does Quinn Ewers do? He almost breaks the school record for consecutive pass completions, then leads them to 3 straight touchdown drives to take a lead. Of course, Vanderbilt was going to battle back. You knew they were going to, especially in Nashville with Diego Pavia at quarterback. But I actually was very impressed by the way Texas responded after the way that game started. That was my main takeaway from that. Now, is Texas a top 3 or top 4 team? I'm not so certain about that. That's why I've got them ranked lower than maybe a lot of people. But right now, I mean, coming out of that game, I actually kind of feel a little bit better about Texas.
Well, I'm coming from an anti-bias. I hate freaking Texas, so I think Texas is a fraud all the time, every year. And I think, and this is a really just a compliment to Vanderbilt, I think they're playing way above their means. I think that they don't have the horses that Texas has. And I think that offense is also pretty cool because it's all misdirection all the time, but not even quite like Navy misdirection or Vanderbilt is playing as good as they possibly can with what they have. It's exciting to see. But the fact that Texas didn't run them, fraud, super fraud. I hate Texas, so I'm sticking with super fraud, Brandon. Okay, Texas has nobody else really to play, though. I mean, they play Arkansas, they play Texas A&M, but okay, if I'm taking my bias out, they should beat Arkansas. Can Texas A&M, do you think they, and the Texas game, do you think Texas A&M can play with Texas?
Oh, yeah, I think so. And that game's in College Station. I actually kind of wrestled over the weekend about whether I should put A&M above Texas in my rankings at this point, just because A&M looks so much better consistently week to week as far as just improvement. And now they've got a difference maker at quarterback in Marcello Reed that I think actually makes them better from what we've seen in previous weeks. And that game being in College Station later this year maybe gives the edge a little bit to the Aggies going forward. A&M just, again, they've been working quietly in the background, not a lot of hype around them, yet they just keep winning.
Well, stay SEC. Mississippi Ole Miss almost lost to Oklahoma as far as first half. If the game ended in the first half, that's ball game. It doesn't. Oklahoma kind of sucks. But Ole Miss, I don't know. I guess I'm not as bullish on Ole Miss as I was when the year started. Are you?
No, I'm not. Offensively, they get just enough done to get things done, but they're not as explosive as they were earlier in the year. Defensively, that's really what's carried them, and that's what carried them in the second half against OU. They shut them down. They can slow the run. They got one of the top rush defenses in the country, but they kind of freelance a little bit, as one of my buddies, Cole Kublik, has put earlier today when he was talking about Ole Miss's defensive line. They kind of just don't play assignment football at times, and they're talented enough to slow teams doing that. But at some point, it's going to come up and bite them. It's already bit them twice this season, but you can't do that against higher tier opponents, and obviously OU's not one of them, so they were able to escape out of there with a win.
I become biased once I get to know a lot of these coaches. Some I do like, some I don't like. But I like Elko a lot. Didn't know Elko. Spent some time talking. I love that dude, so it makes me root for Texas A&M. I also like Drink. However, sometimes he can do things on the field that makes me think he's a big chump. For example, they get run by Alabama. I expected that. Obviously, they didn't have their quarterback, but it was almost Auburn-esque earlier this year when he's like, if we play Arkansas 9 more times out of 9, we beat all 9. At the end of the game, you can see Drake take his headset off and go, you're lucky we didn't have our quarterback. And I'm like, do you really need to say, everybody already knows that. Do you need to say that on the field? I like Drink, but I did feel like that was kind of a chump thing to yell. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, they're going to get run even with Brady Cook out there. Mizzou's problem hasn't necessarily been a quarterback with they're dealing with injuries right now. It's just that at running back, they missed Cody Schrader from last year, who was incredible, kind of came out of nowhere for them. He was the straw that mixed the drink for them, and they're missing that. And it's not just been at Alabama. We saw them already get blown out on the road in their first SEC road game at Texas A&M with Brady Cook out there at quarterback. So they're got more issues there than just a quarterback. They're missing what they did last year at the running back position.
I think I would yell the same thing that Drink does, because I think I would be a chump. I think if that happened to me, I would be like, "Oh yeah, it's nothing. What do we get to our quarterback?" I just thought that was hilarious. Even when I look back at Drink when he goes on the field with Heupel and is like, "We stand on business," it was like that was a weird time to say that, and he could beat you up like right then. That's what it felt like. Like he could beat you up if he wanted to right then, and I would. Drink as a dude, like I really I love it, but sometimes I'm not so proud of what he says in the heat of the moment, much like me when I lose something. So Drink, though, did not come up traditionally. Do you think that's why he acts the way he does?
Oh yeah, I think he's just got to do a better job of picking his spots when to say things like that. But last year, for example, when they went on that incredible run, won double-digit games, they went to Arkansas, blew Arkansas out. I went to that game because I had nothing going on that weekend and covered it. And I did a story on Drink because he was a high school coach, came through the high school ranks in Arkansas, and just 10 miles up the road, tried to go for a head coaching gig at Springdale High School and didn't get it. They didn't want to promote him from within. And so he was like, I think I'm just going to quit football and get out of it. Then a couple of years later, he jumped into college ball thanks to Gus Malzahn giving him like a GA gig. And here he is now. I think he's just he's built that way. He's built a little bit differently. He's been accustomed to people always doubting him and not giving him chances or whatever. So, yeah, I like that from him. It's especially much more entertaining when you're winning.
Yes.
I think Eli, we'll see what happens. You know where Eli, I think, would do very well at, not just coaching-wise, but also with the public persona he has? Florida. Can you imagine him at Florida and talking the way he does if they're recruiting very well and winning ball games? That could be a lot of fun.
I'll say it again. I love him, but he does stuff he does stuff that I would do, and sometimes I look back at me and I'm like, I wish I wouldn't have done that. But like, it's just those times when he just yells things that are so unconventional, where I'm like, oh man, people are gonna get you for that. But I'd have done the same thing. But I love Drink, and when I say that publicly, all the Arkansas fans are like, you're a sellout. Okay, let's move on to. I got a couple more games here that I watched because I watched a bunch. I thought Nebraska was going to beat Ohio State. They had them. After getting run by Indiana last week, I was like, this is the greatest Matt Rule bounce back in the history of bounce backs. Last possession, they threw a pick after Ohio State ran it down. But I mean, what more than Ohio State winning? What does that say about Nebraska going to Ohio State after getting run by Indiana the week before? They did lose, but I think this is a big step forward in the program, and I hate moral victories, but I liked what I saw with Nebraska. Your thoughts?
I did too, and I think a lot of people are sick of giving the moral victories to Nebraska because they've lost so many one-possession games over the last 3 to 4 years, even before Matt Rule was there. But this did seem different, right? They held Ohio State to only 64 yards rushing, which should be their strength offensively. And Nebraska had 2 to 3 opportunities to actually win that game. I mean, they led in the fourth quarter. They got stood up near the goal line. This is a game that Nebraska not maybe should have won. They were going to win it. It looked like they were in position to win it, and they just couldn't get over the hump. They always seemed to be 1 inch short in every single tight game. I don't know why, what it is, but this game felt different because they did it on the road, and they held the strength of Ohio State in that run game to 64 yards. I think that's something huge for them to build off of going down the stretch.
I'm going to ask you about one more game, and it's going to be the Oregon-Illinois game. I did not think that it would be the blowout that it is. I thought Oregon would win. Oregon just seems like that snowball who continues to roll and get bigger and bigger and bigger. I mean, they almost lose. And again, Boise State, beginning of the year, we probably did not respect how good they actually are. But they had a couple close games early on. It was over from the start. Like, they ran Illinois. So what does it say about both programs?
Well, Oregon, they had offensive line issues because of injuries and everything earlier in the year. They finally started figuring that out by week 3, getting healthy there. And their passing game is so creative. And from the standpoint of they're not going to throw a lot of balls deep, but they do a lot of short game stuff. In fact, I think they went into this past game with the lowest average of passing yards against air, like at 6.5 yards. But their receivers are some of the best blockers in the country. They get guys open. They get them some running lanes when they catch the ball so short, and they can run upfield. Illinois, I don't think, has anything to worry about here. They're still very much a top 25 type team. It's just that they play their type of offense. They try to play keep away for you and then also try to hit stuff up top. I think Illinois kind of got in a shell. They try to play keep away, but they never really went up top as much as they should have in the first half. They finally started doing that in the second half, but the game was already out of hand at that point. I thought Illinois was going to be able to dictate the tempo a little bit better on the road in this game and make it lower scoring. But when they didn't go up top early and Oregon was able to score on their first couple of drives, they kind of snowballed from there, as you put it. Oregon just kind of, when they get things going, there's really no way of stopping them.
Do you get to watch NFL on Sunday, or is the family like, all right, bro, you're maxed out. You Saturday'd up. It's with us now?
I don't watch the NFL really at all anymore. I haven't watched the NFL maybe a full game in like 6 years. Like, I know Detroit's good, and that's about it. Like, I used to use the NFL and the Red Zone network as my background noise on Sundays when I would work, and I'd look up and watch every now and again. But now I don't even have it on at all. I have no idea what's going on in the NFL.
I want to ask you, it's a semi-personal, professional question, and I know you'll be humble, so I'm going to ask you to limit your humbleness as much as you possibly can. I do think that you're by far my favorite collegiate writer. I feel like your career is starting to pop at a level that it hasn't yet. Do you feel that right now? Are you starting to feel a bit more in demand at what you know and how you express it? And are the interview requests coming in like hot and heavy?
I will say I'm getting bigger requests. I try to do everything I can possibly. I love what I do. I love talking about what I do. I love writing about everything. I love sharing stories. I love sharing other people's stories. And so I try to do everything. Like, if you got a small podcast, like I've done podcasts with kids, the teenagers that have maybe, I don't know, 2-3 listeners, I don't know, but I'll go sit down and talk with them for an hour on their podcast. I just love doing what I do. And I also know that, like, for me, I was covering junior high boys and girls basketball 15 years ago. I just love doing it. I love seeing kids, whether it's in college or younger, just overcoming a lot of odds and doing things. You know, I've told people like this at speaking engagements, you know, I grew up in the state of Arkansas. I moved here. I wasn't like a football guy, but I moved close to Fayetteville, Arkansas. And my first year paying attention to them was in 1998, and they started winning games. And they went 8-0, and they were playing number 1 Tennessee, and I just like gravitated toward it. And like, in a lot of ways, college football raised me in a lot of ways. I didn't have a father in home, and I started paying attention to it, and I started reading the newspaper and following these college kids who weren't much older than me and how similar some of their backgrounds were to me. And I love seeing them doing good things, and I gravitated to that. And it's just been, this is an absolute pleasure. I'm in love with college football because of what it did for me, and now the platform it's provided me now to be able to share their stories, and hopefully that comes through. Hopefully my passion comes through, Bobby. I hope that's the case.
The passion's coming through, and it's like I'm watching like a tadpole turn into a little fish, and I was turning into this giant bat, and I'm like just so happy for you because, like, yeah, you're doing massive hits now, dude. I'm so happy for you. We'll have you on again next week. But really, you kill it. Are you doing Are you doing that podcast? Like,
yeah,
you should
every
promote
Monday.
that. You should promote that. Say something about it. That's what we're here for. Promote it.
Yeah, every Monday morning, 8:00 Central Time. It's the middle 8. I review the past week, and of course, looking forward to the upcoming games every Monday morning at 8 Central Time. You can go find it on YouTube. Go search for it.
But it's not just live, because I don't want people to watch it live because my show is on. So don't watch it live. But I'm saying they can hear it. It's up, right, when it's over.
Yeah, get anywhere you get podcasts too. You can find it. Just look for it. Middle 8.
Middle 8. I'm telling you, he is the best. Brandon Marcello, good to talk to you. We'll talk to you again next week. Thank you for your time. And we're not one of those podcasts with 2 people. We literally have millions. I know you're like, I'm doing a charity. We're the kids to him. That's what he's talking about. We literally have millions of people to listen to this. We're very happy about it. We just don't want you to think we're like 7-year-olds you're donating your time to, Brandon.
Well, you're not. You're big time, Bobby.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to hear.
Listen, I am incredibly surprised that I'm able to do stuff with you, Bobby. It's a pleasure, man.
Well,
Thank
Brandon,
you so much.
Have a great day. I'm sure you have a full day, and we'll talk to you next week.
See you, man.
All right, Brandon Marcello, everybody.